Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bite Size Book Club.
Whoop, whoop.
We are doing...
Towards me, John.
Hi, everyone. We're doing part 2 of 4 Agreements. Yeah, that's what we're doing today. So,
Struggling.
what?
She said we're struggling.
We are struggling. We're struggling with life.
Took
I'm
me
like
4
barely in the
chances to
frame.
make a cup of coffee today, so, I can't really say anything.
All right. So, Meg wasn't here for the first half. So, Meg, what was your kind of thoughts about the first 2? So, last week we did the first 2 agreements, which is be impeccable with your word and don't take anything personally. What were your thoughts?
So, I had thoughts like overall as the book as a whole, because
Sure.
I read it in one part. But if we're not going there and we're just pulling out the first 2 concepts, I would say, I found it to be a little bit like common sense as far, they're not like, groundbreaking concepts at all.
No.
And I actually thought it was like a little contradicting that the whole thing was like, the rules and agreements that you're brought up to follow and like pretty much that you're conditioned to do that, but you should do this instead. But like the very first one is to, pretty much always tell the truth. And that was like the first rule I was taught as a child. So I just thought that was a little silly. And then the second one's the assumption one. Don't make assumptions, right? Or is that third?
No, the second one
Don't take anything
is
personally.
Don't take it personally. I think that's a really good point. Again,
Yeah.
it's not anything groundbreaking that you haven't heard before, but that's probably like, as like a rather sensitive little creature, that's probably the thing that I struggle the most with out of the 4 concepts that he really dove into.
I would agree.
What's up?
I feel the same way. I think that's something we should all really strive for. I think that's really difficult. I think a lot of it comes from internal, right? I think a lot of us, especially the 3 of us, right? We're all pretty self-critical.
Yes.
So it's
I did agree with that part of,
I have a very strong judge.
Yeah. I think so that's something with us that like all 3 of us, like one little thing can set us over the edge because we've already beat ourselves up about it. We don't need to hear about it again.
that I will say that out of that, it was the part of the book that stuck with me the most that I think is going to be my biggest takeaway did come right from the beginning. And it was justice is paying for something once. And I know that like, I'm the worst about that is I feel like if I mess up, I need to like, I like constantly come back to the fact that I made a mistake and making amends. But in reality, like it is like once you've accepted it, you've paid your dues and you've tried, you got to move on. And like, I think as a whole, we're getting better with that, but it definitely is like the one consistent thing I need to keep working on.
I think that's the biggest thing in relationships too, right? I think that's the like, when you see somebody every day and they just annoy the piss out of you about something and you always go back to something, right? There's always something that you can, will push the button to win the fight or to get it back to wherever. It's that one thing they did X amount.
The best relationship advice I ever got was actually from my dad, which is mildly ironic because he's been divorced twice. However, I still think that it's very true. Good advice was, each day that you wake up, you have to choose like that marriage or that partner, but also like never think of it as checking the scoreboard. Yeah. It's like once you let that person know that you're forgiven or they're letting something, you're moving on, that becomes something that you don't get to bring up anymore.
No, you gotta
that moves forward.
Yeah.
And
I think that's hard.
Yeah.
I think that's really hard to do.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I took a marriage in the family class in college, and one thing that stuck with me from that is like, don't fight angry. Step away, let emotions cool, and then be careful with your words. Because if you fight angry, you're going to break something.
Yeah, you're going to say something stupid that you don't mean.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt somebody's feelings.
And I'm someone who, like, I've talked about this with people before. Like, I think there's different types of intelligence, and people have different ones. And, like, I might not be the smartest book intelligent or have the most common sense, but I tend to think that I'm pretty emotionally intelligent. That's, like, what I think my highest one is. So, therefore, when I'm upset, it comes pretty easy for me to take that and put it into words of, I'm feeling this is why I'm feeling that. Yeah. And I had to learn that, like not everybody's like that. And so if I'm in a fight with someone, I need a response right away. Like, aren't you listening to me? How do you feel? And I had to learn that like most people need time to process that, just like I would need time to process a new like math concept or something like that. and what you said, like fighting the anger. So I had to learn to like, okay, they just need time to process, and I can process over here a little more or something.
So those are the first two, which we talked about last week. Overall, what were your thoughts of the book?
Alicia, would you like to go first? I talked a lot already.
I am really surprised it's on so many people business recommendation lists, because like short of actual like the Bible, I have never read a more spiritually minded book, and it came across really bizarre and kind of hokey at times, but then at the same time, to me, like, I don't know, it almost was like camp movies, like campy movies.
Yeah.
Like, it was so bad that I was like, it made me remember the concepts.
Yeah.
I would say that, first of all, I would not think of this as a business book. I would think of this as a self-help book. Not once did it talk about putting those products or processes in effect as far as leading your business. It was all about leading your personal life, and the thoughts of like earth is hell and this is how you live in nirvana. Those are all very much like self-help religious concepts to me. And as probably the least religious person at this table, it was a lot. It came off pretty strong. My overall concept was like, I didn't think any new information was really coming to the table here, other than that concept of like justice is, only paying punishment once, which, in all reality, like that's what our law system is. So it shouldn't have been new information. But the main concepts of the book, the main takeaway, even the examples that they used, it just felt like stuff that you had already heard or kind of knew, and it was just put into this small little like reference manual. But I was, with knowing how popular the book is, I was kind of surprised that there wasn't a bigger like takeaway or something.
There wasn't a lot of action to it. Like, it was all like, and I said this last week when we were talking about the first two parts, it was all very cerebral, not a lot of like, and this is how you can implement it in your life. These are some things you can do to stop the judge from taking over. It's just like, all right, well, don't let the victim be. Which one was a parasite? Yeah,
the thing to me that's really funny is like for as common sense as it is, it wasn't practical. Right? There's no like practical application of like, okay, when this happens, remember to take a breath and remember to like not judge yourself as harshly.
I also felt like there was an underlying current of victim blaming. Kermit the Frog. An underlying current of victim blaming. I especially didn't like the scenario where it's like you never let anyone abuse you more than the abuse that you're accepting.
Alicia talked about this. Yeah.
It was I'm sure if you've talked about, not to repeat it, but it's just, don't get me wrong. Like, I know that like there's that like mentality of like you deserve it, things like that can be true, but also I think that a lot of different factors go into how someone could end up in that situation.
Sure.
And he just has a lot of blanket statements. It's very black and white. And I think like, where does your authority come in this for within to be able to speak with that in the space?
Well, in 120 pages too, there's not a lot of nuance, right? No. This is very just like, here's what it is.
Because he started bringing up like, all of a sudden in the second part I noticed, and let me see if I can find it, where it's he's like, the concept of this, and he like name dropped something and kept saying like kept coming back to it.
Oh, it started with a T.
Yeah.
It's harder because I listen to the audiobook, so I can't visualize the word. But the Ted something or Tom, wasn't it? It was like a guy's name or
Toltec. It's at the top here. Toltec. But like, back to your point about like the victim blaming, what I had said with that is like, on the other side of things, you can see how your self-perception impacts how you let people treat you. Yeah. However, for somebody in that situation, that's not helpful. And at the end of the day, how someone treats you and how like there is a certain amount of people treat you how you let them treat you. But there's also like, that's not helpful to someone being treated that way.
Exactly. There's that saying that's like, don't tell someone how to love you. Let them show you how they love and then decide if that's what you want.
Yeah.
And I truly wholeheartedly believe in that, and the whole concept that he talked about not changing people. Yes, that's right. But it's just like being in a situation where there's abuse or you're a victim of any kind, like there can be times where you can even say like, I deserve better than this. And that doesn't mean that you can just immediately leave or immediately do something. There's other steps that have to be taken. But it just seemed like it was so much about don't be the victim, don't be the victim. I also don't think there's anything wrong with someone standing up and saying I was a victim or I did this. And he makes it sound like it's something you should be ashamed of.
And the other nuance that he misses is a lot of abusers find that chink in the armor and then they just slowly widen it. So you don't even notice that they're changing your perception of yourself and they're changing what you think you deserve. And that's not a victim's fault.
Yeah, gaslighting, manipulation. There's 1,000 ways that someone can do it. And by the time you can take a step back, ideally you would have been removed from that situation. And I get what he's saying is that if you have this mindset, you'll never be a victim.
That's not
but
true.
It's just, you
practical.
can't control
Again,
it.
that's
It's not practical.
At some point, you could end up a frog in a pot.
Yeah.
Now, on the not changing people thing, I actually, I agree with him, you shouldn't change people. But at the same time, I think it's impossible to expect that you're going to find someone who you 100% don't have anything that you don't like about them.
Sure.
Exactly.
I adore my husband who's sitting right behind me, but there are things about him that drive me crazy. I don't try to change them.
No.
Sure.
I have to learn how to process them and live with them and put things in place to...
I have many, many little quirks. The idea that someone would find all of those charming is pretty unrealistic. And I think that also feeds into a mentality about our society that I don't love. And it's the idea of soulmates. Do I believe, I can believe that people are meant to be, that someone was meant to be in your life 1,000 times over. But that concept people have honed in on is that one person should be able to be your best friend, be your support system, be this, be that, and it's all in one individual. And I think that's too much pressure. And then the idea that you could also be all of those needs for the other person, it just becomes a lot. You need a community. So it's okay if there's a couple things about someone you don't like with. It's a choice that you're choosing to be with them and love them how they are.
And let's be honest, right? In 2,000 years ago, right, when all the books were written, the religious books or whatever, right, thousands of years ago, no one had options, right? You lived in a village of 30 or 40 people or 100.
Go with the person who was least related to you.
Look, let's be honest,
That's a
right?
very good point.
You didn't have a lot of options. And now, today, I agree, right? I think that there are people that are meant to be in your lives, or there's people that you have a particular connection with, but it's unfair to put that burden on somebody else. I think it's really healthy. Look, there are things in a relationship or in marriage that, depending on what your agreement is with each other, I think are bad, right? I think it's bad to have scheduled guys or girls night outs. I think it's bad to have scheduled the guys go away to this vacation spot every year, right? You're something is going to happen there, depending on what your agreement is with your significant other, right? Yeah. Or maybe it's fine, right?
Yeah.
That that's going to happen, but that you are opening yourself up to make mistakes, and we all have poor judgment at sometimes. But I think that knowing okay, well, I have a group of friends that like to do this and I like to do that, and my significant other doesn't, why should they be burdened with having to do that? I like basketball. I don't think that everyone likes basketball. So if I have friends that want to go watch basketball,
you have friends where basketball is 90% of your relationship with them.
That's fair.
Well,
yeah,
it's
100%
when Jared
true.
goes golfing with the guys.
Yeah.
It was discussed, it was tried. I have no interest in ever stepping foot on a golf course. But I also get what you're saying, that it's if we have to have guys night out, where you're treating it as an escape from that relationship,
then there's something
then
missing.
it's okay, why do you need that so often? What are you trying to do there? It's one thing if it's focused on the hobby.
Yeah.
It's another if it's just I just need to be away from this person.
Yeah.
And it's okay to do things without the person, but
100%.
I feel
and
it's a whole different mentality.
I think it's great to have other interests, right? Because what you're going to do is that you bring back different ideas and concepts to your relationship. So if you like a particular book or a particular genre of music or whatever, right? Then it breeds this, oh, well, I found this, right? Like, so you need to try, like, listen to this song. Maybe you're going to like it. And you find things that you enjoy together by doing things like that.
I read a cool article that's talked about how you want to be compatible with your companion, but you don't necessarily want to blend, because if you have all the same interests and all the same things, you eventually are going to get bored with that person.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to bring new things to the table and new discussions. It's really, and you start to lose yourself in that relationship. So having your own identity, your own interest, your own thoughts, some of your own friends makes you stay more of your own person. And I think it's a much more beautiful concept that two people who are their own people are building a family unit and can still be those individual support systems rather than just turning into one big blob.
I heard on TikTok, an interesting analogy lately that this mom, she and her husband, when they got married, they had pie for their wedding. And they have something that they eat regularly called wedding pie. And it's eating key lime pie and cherry cobbler together. And she's like, key lime pie on its own is delicious. Cherry cobbler on its own is delicious. You can have either of them, and they are perfectly fine desserts on their own. But when they come together, they create something new. Okay, well, you know what? I think
that's disgusting that they're
gross.
Together, but I get the concept sounds beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
Key lime pie, cherry cobbler together.
Yeah. Throw some peaches or something in there.
If you go to Boston,
is a
cherry lime Rickies are like a New England drink that are pretty common. So
I just think key lime pie. I don't know why we're talking about this. Key lime pie is very tart.
The textures are very, very different, and neither of them are over the top sweet. I suppose it would depend, but I would think like a strawberry pie would be really good with key lime. Maybe
I don't know. I could.
However, this is a rabbit hole off of a rabbit.
This
is a rabbit trail
Yeah,
off
we
of
need
another
Caleb's
rabbit
clicker.
trail.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. Anyway, I think the last two are don't make assumptions and always do your best. Again, could we get more common sense out of this?
Also, the prayers at the end were really weird.
It's strange. It's strange.
It was a lot.
I think prayers are always strange.
My whole thing is like, this feels like one of those books that you can't really critique in a way. It's like, yes, all of this is very nice. Thank you. I don't know.
Let's go out and be white magicians.
Yes.
I also think if you were in crisis, it's probably a nice book to read if you're in crisis that kind of helps give you some framework.
But I don't understand why it's on business lists.
I would say that's my big thing. Like I
went into it with a completely different expectation to what we got.
Yeah. One thing that I do when I read a book is like reading it just to enjoy it, or reading it whether it's for a book club or something, is I always kind of have in the back of my head, would I recommend this book to someone else? And if so, what does that person look like? Because I love recommending books to people, which, like, John, you can say you give everybody books. Yeah. But also it just kind of helps me formulate the book a little bit in my brain. And there wasn't really anyone that I was like, they should definitely read this book. Yeah. But if I was to recommend the book to anyone, it was someone who just went through like a very hard time, and it has nothing to do with business.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't.
Two weird things. First of all, the front looks like it should be textured, and it's not, and that bothers me.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Second of all, the entirety of the book is in the front cover.
Yeah, I was thinking that. You could literally have read those 4 paragraphs and you're good.
Did you see that someone released a book called The Fifth Agreement?
It's him. He has a fifth agreement.
That's what, and I was like, I feel like that's not fair.
Yeah.
You literally said we only need these 4 things.
There's an online course to learn the 4 agreements.
Well, guys, a near-death experience changed his life, because late one night in the early 1970s, he awoke suddenly, having fallen asleep at the wheel of his car.
Wow.
And at that instant, the car careened into a wall of concrete.
Oh my goodness. Have you seen the movie with Jim Carrey, Yes Man?
Probably.
Where like he has to say yes to everything.
Where he has to,
okay. Zooey Deschanel's in it and stuff.
Yep.
That concept is kind of what comes here. If you took this book as actual fact, and like, you will never tell a lie no matter how white or little it is ever again, and you will be your authentic self no matter what, or how it does for you, and all those things.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you would probably be living a very different type of life. Does that sound like the best life to live? I don't know. You can make that judgment for yourself. But that's what it sounds like. Other than that, it's just like common things. Like, don't lie. Nobody wants to hang out with a liar. Don't assume anything. You'll make an ass out of you and me. Like, these are normal things that like everybody strives for. So I I don't know. I don't understand how the book is as popular as it is.
Millions
suppose.
of, I don't know. People want to
Just-
hear the same shit over and
I
over again.
guess.
It's like Start With Why, right? Great concept, good book, could have been a chapter,
Yep.
right? Like it was the
Blog
same
post.
thing.
This could have been a blog post.
Yeah, seriously. It could have been a blog. That's perfect. And on that note, Don Miguel Ruiz, please just write a blog post about the 4 agreements and we could be done with that. One of the new things we're going to start doing, and Meg kind of brought it up, but she didn't know it. Since we read these and generally with the book club stuff, I actually buy books, real books. So if anybody ever watches these, the first person to comment or email us or anything, if you would like the book, we're happy to send it to you. So shoot us an email or anything, and we'll send you the book.
Idea. That,
Yeah.
that worked out so well.
I think it's just because John doesn't want to have to move a million,
6
Yeah.
billion
books
books again.
again.
We're
And if
not
you would
moving
like
offices again.
Any of the 300 books we've read previously, they're all at 2424 East York Street. You can go there in their library, and we gave them all our books.
There you go.
So,
We're kind souls.
so our next book club is, I believe it's September 15th. I'm not sure of the exact date. It's on our website. If you go check it out at WeSpeakEasy.com, go to the book club little link there that you wind into from Bite Size. You can find the date there. We are going to be doing Good Omens by Neil Gaiman.
You have
So
a webinar
please
that
join us for that. Yes, we do have a webinar that day. That is correct. It might not be the same day then, because it would be the
I feel
17th.
like it would be hard to do it on the
It would be
same day,
Friday.
so maybe, yeah,
And
the
that's a
webinar is
Wednesday.
probably Wednesday, so
Yeah,
I guess it would be
so-
September 17th.
It's
would be
either
a
the
better guess.
17th or the night, or the the
We
10th.
will update
whatever.
it
Yep.
and let you
We'll
know.
let you know.
Yeah.
We will a caption once we post this underneath
Yeah.
updated date.
And then after that, we're
Told of
back
you
to Stephen
assume
King.
anyone.
And I forget what the next Stephen King book is.
Ooh, I don't
But
know actually.
I'll
I've
tell
been
you.
reading Good
Let's
Omens.
do
I don't
it.
know.
We'll
That
figure it
was
out
Good
right on the
Omens.
spot.
It was really nice to dive back into Good Omens.
I have the Good Omens audio production from BBC. I have the Good Omens audiobook. I have a print version. I have a Kindle version.
I have the print version in my purse right over there. I have the audiobook on my phone, which I was listening to a little bit when I finished that book this morning. And I have watched the TV show on
I loved it.
It was very good. The miniseries, I
On
guess?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime, that's what
Yeah.
it was. Yes.
All right. So the next Stephen King book we're going to be doing is Roadwork
Dun, dun, dun. Never heard
from
of
1981. So we're moving into the 80s. It's going to be Roadwork, Cujo, and then The Running Man.
it. We should have a
I'm like
virtual happy, like 80s themed happy hour to celebrate moving into the 80s.
I love it. We could do that. We'll set it up. It's great.
I would say in person. But
And then
you
we
know,
get into a
everything's
real
getting locked
good
down.
run of Stephen King books that we're all going to know. So we'll get to Alicia's favorite, which is The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger, which is the first book. Then we're going to hit Pet Sematary. We're going to hit It, Misery.
I'm
There's a
so
whole
excited
bunch of
for
them in the 80s. So we will be there. All
What
right,
level
everyone.
of cocaine use is in the 80s?
Yes, cocaine, definitely cocaine. So everyone have a lovely day. And if you're tuning in to our Dungeon Havoc D&D is in about an hour. So every Friday at 1:45, that kicks off. And we will see you guys then. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.